Hey everybody, welcome back to the Feature Crew. Super exciting day. We've been waiting for it for a long time. GPT-5 is finally here, and it came just in time to coincide with the first anniversary of our channel. So very exciting. OpenAI is claiming that this is their smartest model ever, and it's the best model in the world. And so we're excited to put it to the test and see if that's true. So if you load up the ChatGPT app with the newest updates, you'll see that there's only one model option. It's GPT-5, and then I think if we go to other models, that there's a thinking variant, so we can push it to answer harder questions, longer responses. We will do that for most of our tests here. We're starting off with a channel favorite, our planet test. So we'll procedurally generate a planet with Three.js. We'll get that set up. It's a long prompt. Regular viewers of the channel will know it well. We are looking for a procedurally generated, realistic-looking planet. We're going to pay extra attention to the atmosphere and the clouds. That's where most frontier models have been struggling lately in our tests, and we have that thinking mode on, so we're hoping for a really good response.
And we're intentionally testing in the client to get the most kind of on the rails experience. On the API, you can go crazy, but we want to have the system prompt and have it all designed as most users will use it.
While we're waiting here for it to generate, for anybody missing Chris, he's currently at the hospital, not in a bad way, expecting his wife is giving birth to their second child. And so very exciting. We'll have Chris back on the channel as soon as parental duties permit. All right, we got a response back. We're going to try to render it in client. We've had some issues with that in the past, so if not, we will push it over to our tool. We encountered a weird bug running it in actual Canvas, but once we ran it in our own tool, just like load it up as a normal HTML file, it runs fine. We've got a very good first attempt. One of the best we've seen, probably the best first attempt we've seen. You know, it got the atmosphere. It has clouds. The clouds are animated. So if we look closely at the clouds, we can't zoom in super close. We'll have to ask for that in a follow-up. But you can see that the clouds are sort of, as they move, they're sort of morphing. And I don't know if we've seen that before. Certainly not many times. I like how they did biomes. You know, we've got areas where there's more water, sort of lakes. We've also got areas where there are clear mountains. They're changing the color of the terrain based on the biome. They definitely have some interesting smoothing. So yeah, definitely a really good first attempt. Can we look at the polls to see if there's any pinching going on? I'm not seeing it anywhere. Yeah, so a great foundation, and now we want to see how far we can push it, how realistic it can look. So we'll give it an image of the planet. We'll give it some feedback. We might ask for some more controls. And we'll see what the model's able to do. So we got some feedback typed out. We're asking for further zoom, as Dylan mentioned before. We want some more sliders. We want to be able to control the cloud coverage, the height of the atmosphere and the clouds, and just so that we can kind of configure a more realistic planet spacing. And then we also want to just see what it does in improving the terrain overall, especially now that it has an image of its output. So we'll send that off, and we'll come back to you once it's finished. So we got a response. We encountered some hiccups with the Canvas. Canvas is this constant thorn in the side for any model we've tested. So we pulled it out of Canvas. It's the same file we had before, same feedback, and we'll load it up and see what it did. Interesting.
So you now have cloud coverage. So that increases cloud coverage. Cloud height, increases the sphere. Atmosphere height. Okay. So it certainly complied with the request, but
the problem is it put the clouds on the terrain in addition to, like, it has the cloud layer. We can zoom closer.
Yeah, we can zoom closer, but the noise is all being like messed up.
We'll give it a screenshot of what it did to the terrain and see if it can fix that. But good that it complied with all of our real feature requests. It complied with, it executed them well, and then our weird open-ended section, it took that and ran with it in the wrong direction. So we will ask it for a focused pass on improving the terrain, given what it has now, and we'll see what it's able to put together.
There we go. Okay, so we said the terrain looks bad, it's too spiky, and we lost biome coloring. It thought for a bit and then did a lot of tokens, so we're going to render this up.
Well, that's better. Oh, and we have all the... Oh, okay, this is...
Okay, so it gave us...
This is much better.
This gave us a lot of configuration.
So we can't see the terrain.
But,
is there an error? Check the errors. So we got a WebGL error. We're going to give it that error real quick and see if we can fix that. We're asking for a lot, like more than we usually do in a single prompt. So, willing to give it the benefit of the doubt here. So it thought for about 30 seconds and it went right into trying to fix that error. So we'll see if it was able to do that. Hey.
This is
wow.
Good. If we zoom in.
Oh, this is looking that.
Very good now, actually.
Oh, this is by far the best we've seen.
This is pretty good. So if I zoom in,
you can see that. Oh yeah, we can see the clouds moving.
The clouds are looking very good.
Let's walk through. Do you want to walk through? So we can start with the clouds. Now, the clouds haven't changed much throughout this. We just asked for that cloud height slider. So if we turn up cloud speed, we can make it really obvious that the
Yeah.
clouds are animated, they're moving. This is what clouds look like if you
Yeah.
take an aerial
Very good.
shot and speed it up.
And we can
This is
still
super
do
impressive.
coverage. We'll just kind of
Move it
work
in
this.
and out of the atmosphere, right?
Our prompts have been about give us more control. So there are some elements of like you can make the sea higher than the atmosphere or whatever, but that was a kind of intentional based on the prompt.
Now we can turn the clouds off.
Yeah.
So that we can check out the rest of the features,
Yeah.
the benefits of our control. Now this lets us see the water really clearly, and we can see the shader that it implemented on the water. The shader takes into account the depth, like how much water you're looking through. It gets deeper.
You can start to see the actual planet, and as the water comes in, it's kind of like flooding and going on top of it, which is fantastic. So if we go all the way up, then you're only going to see the peaks. Pretty cool. And you can even see through, kind of the bit of the seafloor as it comes like that.
Right, which is the shader. Very cool to see it here, and it did a great job with it. And then the terrain itself, I think it looks good.
When you do elevation amplitude, that's really just giving you spikier peaks. If you do 0, it's just flat. Continent scale.
Yeah. Oh, this is great to see. So we have in the prompt, we ask for Minecraft caves and cliff style terrain, which the models usually completely ignore. When you see the continent scale, the mountain, which in Minecraft is called peaks and valleys, it's actually using some of the same concepts that Minecraft's used in generating a terrain, but it has these terrace steps and terrace strength. So it's actually adding a little bit of its own sauce on top of the Minecraft approach. Great to see. And as Dylan sort of plays with the sliders here, we can see the wide variety of different terrain that we can get.
You can make the mountains more mountainous, so pretty impressive.
Yeah, this is a very impressive result. This
is probably I would say the best we've seen.
Yeah, I would say by far this is the best we've seen, both in terms of like how it implemented it. What we've seen recently is that the better and better models get, there was a bit of a regression on this test because they started to use more advanced techniques to actually generate the planet. And it seems like GPT-5 has kind of broken through that ceiling and is able to use the advanced techniques. Most of this is happening on the GPU. It's using like vertex displacement for the terrain height and then vertex coloring for the actual mesh. And then it's using shaders for the water, for the atmosphere, for the clouds. That's harder to do. It's harder for humans to do. It's hard for LLMs to do. And so to see it kind of break through that, use all these strategies at the same time and put together something really nice is awesome.
Pulling into perspective, this has been 3 shots and we're getting something that is like very impressive.
Very impressive.
This is again this is not a pro variant model. This is the thinking variant, so you still need a Plus subscription, but this is available today for Plus, and you get some kind of GPT-5 on free. So pretty impressive stuff, given this is a very this is all other models deprecated. This is what you get baseline now. So has been a bit of a step up.
We're very happy with this. We want to do the challenge mode that we sometimes do with really good responses. We're not expecting this to succeed necessarily, but we're asking it to bring us down to first person, put us on the planet, and then fill out what the terrain and the surface with things for us to interact with in first person: trees, rocks, other sorts of props. So again, challenge mode. It's already kind of done the best at this challenge that we've ever seen, but we want to see how far it can push it. Oh, so it seems to have hit the issue we've seen before, where the scale is off for sure, and that the props are not actually parented to the rotating planet. It does have an inventory though.
So the props are kind of just there.
They're massive.
Very close, but not
Very
quite.
close.
Where massive. It did do prompt adherence, and unlike other models, they would just blow away everything else. We can still see all the sliders, and if we were flying up, you can even see that I'm collecting at the top right trees and rocks. So if we gave it a couple more prompts, maybe we could even get something with this. But as it is, unfortunately, still not fully clearing challenge mode. But this is again the closest we've seen. It kept the planet, which is giant, right? And that kind of contextual world awareness, it's getting closer every time, right? We're starting to see glimmers of it.
We'll open source this, so if you want to try to give it another couple turns and fix it, definitely do so. I think this, when we first ran this test about a year ago, the final result that we got before challenge mode is sort of what I had in mind as the ideal result.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of starting to break our test. We've been talking internally about having to create new tests and starting to feel that, and GPT-5 is really giving me that feeling.
So great showing for coding. We'll now move on to business reasoning. and see how it holds up. So here we are. We're doing the first part of our business reasoning test. This is the information retrieval stage, but we are asking now specifically to get all the up-to-date models as well as benchmarks. And we've included now to get as much benchmark data as you can find, because we've often found that models sometimes struggle with that. They'll find like one benchmark and over-index and so on. So the next part is then taking that information and synthesizing. So we'll send this one off, and then we'll kind of go through and see how it did in terms of getting up-to-date models first.
Okay, so we got a response. It did a pretty solid job. So it found what we usually look for in this leg is that it doesn't find all the most recent models, right? Is it able to survey the internet, find all the most recent models? We tried to push it for more benchmarks because we've struggled with that in the past. Sometimes models don't even reply with benchmarks. So what we have here is a pretty comprehensive response. It found itself, including all the other most recent OpenAI models, including OSS 20B and 120B, which is great. GPT-5 and the open source models only came out this week, obviously, and so great to see that like it for sure wasn't in training data. It got the most recent models from Google, and then scrolling through it also got Anthropic. It also got Meta, and so we're covering that now. The benchmarks were sort of sparse throughout this first part. For some models it would cite a couple benchmarks, for others it wouldn't. It almost realized that it had missed that because then it covers useful benchmarks. What are the benchmarks people actually care about? And then if we keep scrolling, it moved into like, oh, I need to actually report the useful benchmark scores. So it went and kind of dumped in whatever it had in its search results in a sort of model to benchmark mapping. This is where we've never seen anything like this before. This is where it's starting to become like a little more human, where it's starting to like go beyond the prompt. It tries to satisfy everything in the prompt, which it did. But then it goes beyond the prompt and is starting to give us this helpful like context or useful next steps or useful questions.
This is more aligned to what a human would want, right? When you ask for something, you're not just asking for it, you're asking for some of the context around it, right? So it's done so far a pretty good job, but we're only looking at information retrieval. But we're going to go ahead and just continue with our part 2 prompt.
The only difference is I think what we'll do, instead of asking for text-based analysis, we'll ask for basically what we did with DeepSeek, where we ask for a report in HTML form, so we can see an interactive report. They showed that off during the GPT-5 reveal, and so we would love to see that capability on top of what we usually ask for in just text form.
We've got the part 2 prompt set up here. Let's see how it does.
So we got a response back. It did exactly what OpenAI promised GPT-5 would do. It did searches, it did code analysis, it reasoned in multiple sort of iterations, and then we got kind of a monster response here to go through. So it created charts, it created an HTML report, it created a raw data set that included some benchmarks that were missing from the first response. It conducted 16 more searches in order to get that data. And then right at the top, this is like sort of along the lines of this model being more helpful and actually helping humans. Right at the top is the links, right? So link to the interactive HTML report that contains all of the data, and then a link to the CSV alone, and then the individual charts alone, which it decided to pivot on benchmark. So we'll switch over to the HTML report to see what it generated. So it gives us some highlights right at the top, which are pretty much verbatim out of its text response. And then it included all these charts. So we can go through them really quickly. As I said before, it pivoted on the benchmarks themselves. So it first shows SweBench, then it shows HLE, and again, the different models. So yeah, so then it got some more, including MMU, GP4QA, AME 2025. AME is the last sort of benchmark chart. These were all sort of similar. They just charted the top model's performance on the benchmark. Not super novel analysis, insightful, but very useful, right? And scrolling through, you can see like in these various domains, which model is performing the best. So now scrolling beyond the benchmark dedicated charts, this is where we start to get into its progression and progress over time. So it's focusing on itself, which I think is interesting, right? It maps only OpenAI models over time. And it's, in this case, it's showing it on Amy. And then it's trying to communicate like, how is benchmark performance changing?
I think it's trying to show that this is like plateauing. It then goes on to say there's many different like benchmarks and so on. This is now it trying to project out to the future.
Now, the difference here is that it called out that it was naive, right?
Which is great.
So it's not doing a groundbreaking model, model in the math sense. But what it is doing is realizing that, hey, this is just a quick pass, a naive projection, and I'm sure we could ask for a follow-up with a more detailed model.
And fairly reasonable. Like a good human would probably do something like this, right? Just wow, this kind of fits and seems reasonable, and it illustrates the story I'm about to tell.
It embeds the full data
It's a
set,
full data set, yeah.
which is,
So
it's sort of like the appendix, right? It's
yeah,
like it's
yeah.
right at the end here, and it's sort of useful.
And it's great that it's got the source, it's got some notes and so on. And you can download this as a CSV as well.
Right. So all of this will be open source and available if you want to check it out. I
Yep.
think where it really shined was actually, as we were looking through this, was
Yep.
in this text response here.
Yep.
And so as we were saying at the top, it had the links, and then it goes right into, okay, what were my sources? And then it goes right into what do the charts say? Here's the
Yep.
TLDR basically for this
Yep.
whole analysis. And we think all of this was pretty good. One of the things I want to point, again, this will be open source.
Yeah,
You can check it out yourself.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to call out today is it pulled out that, like, interestingly, on HLE, Humanity Last Exam, Grok 4 Heavy leads above GPT-5. And it's like notably.
Yeah.
And Elon was tweeting about this today.
Yeah.
Right. So this was Twitter conversation this morning. And it says HLE is noisy, but the gap is big, right?
Yep.
So it's like it's noticed something that doesn't really fit.
Yep.
Now, of course, on Twitter, the XAI fans were presenting it as this means Grok is smarter. The OpenAI people were saying, ignore this, right?
Yep.
Obviously, the truth is somewhere in the middle. But it's just really cool to see that the model noticed something that was going to be a hot topic. And then again, similar sort of useful analysis as the charts throughout the rest of this section. But I thought that HLE piece was the most interesting.
Then it even says novelish takeaways. Like from a vibe perspective, like we just said before, it's feeling more human in that sense. Like it's feeling more useful. These are now getting to like oh wow, this is a useful assistant, something that has actually thought ahead and is now actually doing something like we've always been pushing like for the last like 6 months. Give us something useful. Give us something useful. And now
something novel.
Give us something novel. And now it's actually like oh, that's just baked into the model, and that's fantastic.
And in the past, it always felt like even when we asked for something novel, the responses were very surface level, or they felt like hedgy or generic, like some statement that could be true given many data sets. Now, this is way more specific. So the first point here is one model to rule them all isn't real. So this is like, it's
stake in the ground.
It's commenting on itself and saying like, the thing they said about me isn't necessarily true. And this is something we've said before a lot. We're seeing that in this sort of time where we're still working towards AGI, that different companies, different models are specializing in different domains, and GPT-5 noticed that as well, and is talking about how the benchmark results vary across domains for different models, and how certain models might be better at different things.
And I would say that this helps me to see that they're at least human aligned. Like the fact that it isn't just saying GPT-5 trashes everything, it's by far the best, is a step in the right direction. Like I never want to see it just blindly regurgitate something. It's showing quite a few sources, and it's actually being very clear that like, look at this, like you need to be aware of this, and that's great.
And the second point here blew my mind. Like tooling and scaffolding matter as much as raw IQ. So they're talking about how like the system you build around the model is just as important, maybe even more important than the sort of raw performance of the base model in perfect conditions. And so this is something that I've tried to evangelize in my professional life, my personal life. This is something that is not a common take necessarily. It's I mean, of course I agree. So I think it's validating me, but you know, these are way more interesting, way more nuanced takes than we've ever seen in this analysis.
We won't go through every single one and point out all the individually brilliant points. We'll open source this. Feel free to read through. We'll keep kind of skimming through. It's the recommendation to small, medium-sized businesses, and it's done this whole tiered approach.
Often other models are hedgy, particularly on the recommendation section. And they'll say, oh, you could use this, or you could use this. And sometimes they don't feel like the best options for those specific domains. In this case, GPT-5 actually sort of created a framework for how its recommendations were going to work. It said, okay, we're going to use a tiered recommendation system and bucket the models into the different sort of domains in which you would want to use them as a small business. Tier A is fast and cheap. It's talking about O4 Mini, it's talking about Gemini Flash, and then tier B is like heavy and deliberate. And that's often how I think about models.
It is a very natural delineation of task.
And then it dives beyond the models and says like, okay, if you're on it, like this is again, a real world, real usefulness point of like, sort of green field recommendations are great if you're starting something from scratch. Most people have limitations. We didn't tell it, we didn't give it a ton of information, but it says, hey, we understand this fictional small to medium-sized business might have already deployed stuff on a cloud provider. They might have a deal with a cloud provider. So let's give some context for how that might change, how our recommendations might change if your cloud provider is fixed.
Yep.
And that's what they did here. They talked through AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure.
Yeah.
And the recommendations made sense. Again, you can check them yourself. It's like going way beyond the prompt in a way that's actually helpful.
And data driven, right? Like all the sources are there. It's done a great job of trying to like source where it can. Even talks then about its methodology, how I did this, and I only use official model pages or technical reports were available. So again, reassuring the user that this is like not just rando blog posts and then citations, key ones embedded above. It even then says it can plug it in to be a nightly living dashboard. So it's getting pretty impressive.
This is definitely the most impressive like reasoning analysis
Yep.
by far that we've
Yep.
seen on this test.
Yep.
Probably even more than the planet was.
In terms of step up from coding. Yeah.
This
This is a surprising step up, but I guess it shouldn't be a surprise. Our tests are all single shot. There might be even better performance when you're in a code base. Business reasoning, though, is well in the domain of actually what you do day to day with assistants like this. So, of course, they're going to see quite big upgrades as they actually start to get really kind of quote unquote agentic and useful. And we're starting to see the glimmers of that. Awesome. So, we're going to move on to our final test, agentic reasoning, our famous maze test. I think, as Jacob's been saying, GPT-5 illustrated that we need new benchmarks. Like it's going to start topping these out. We've seen it use tools, so pretty confident, but let's make sure that it nails the maze test.
So we've got our maze test set up. Again, sort of regular viewers of the channel will know this test. The top performance so far on the maze test is somewhere in the range of 20, maybe the low 20s. It depends on how you slice it from 03. As Dylan was mentioning, this test is mostly solved with tool calling. We want to see how far it can go. We've never really gone above 20 successfully. So we're going to start with 25.
Yep.
Sort of test it at parity and see how far we can push this. Okay, so we got a response.
Got a response.
Took 2.5 minutes.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure, like we were watching, it basically was just passing the maze and doing the tool calls as needed. So it should nail this. Easy peasy. Path is valid. It's the maze is almost so big it doesn't fit on the screen, but
right.
Unsurprising, it nailed it the first time. So we are going to push it now to go to 50 to see if it
is this truly solved, right? That's what I think we're trying to figure out.
Exactly.
Right?
It might actually be truly solved. So we're going to generate a massive maze, and theoretically, given it did pretty good at like kind of rendering the ASCII and actually having a handle on it, like this, if I start zooming out, it's even getting hard for humans, right? Like it's certainly not trivial. You'd have to like think about this and probably backtrack and so on.
Right.
So we're going to go ahead and copy this, and we will go see how it does. All right. So we pasted the prompt. It is massive. I thought for longer this time, nearly double the time, which makes sense. It's a massive ASCII thing. It probably took time to think about how to render the string and so on. So
it's actually interesting. It thought for double the time, but we quadrupled the amount number of
volume, basically.
Yeah, the volume.
Area. Sorry. Okay, so let's go straight away. Render AI path.
Oh, is it like one little failure?
It's just one thing here.
Oh, okay. So this is basically what happened on, I forget if it was 01 or 03, right? I think it was 03.
So it's not quite solved, but it did a valiant effort. Like it must have just been as it was trying to put everything into code as a string, it probably just flipped this.
Yeah, it missed one.
Because you can see that like it's not randomly just cutting through. It's done everything apart from one little blocker, right? So very close, even up to the end. So just one tiny mistake. Unfortunate. I'm sure if we retried this, maybe it gets a certain percentage of them. But
with one mistake, we're at the point where it's possible for it to solve this, right? It didn't happen. We've kind of luckily, just by happenstance, found right about the limit. So while this test isn't fully solved, I think again we need to start thinking. We can't just keep pushing the maze larger. That's not interesting. It's not mirroring real world. So there's 3 out of 3 tests that we kind of need a new test after GPT-5. If you're enjoying these tests, if you want to see those new tests, definitely subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow. We're at our 1-year anniversary. Great time to be in AI, and we hope you all join us. So what would you say overall?
Overall, great. This is not, I think a lot of people are hyping this up to be like, it's AGI, it's done, like no one's ever going to have to work again. And I think this is just a very reasonable update. It seems like intelligence is just kind of up across the board. They haven't obviously tried to like maximize benchmarks. It's actually becoming more useful. The price it comes at, we'll probably do maybe deep dive on price.
Half the price of 4.0.
Half the price of 4.0 is fantastic. So it's like across the board, everything is just better. And that's shown by them removing all the 4 models. It's like you're now snapping to 5 and it just seems better. And that's probably the best, first impression we can give. We will be doing more videos and actual comparisons to just see how big of a difference this is, if there's anything it's like particularly good at. But first impressions, great. This is not like a dud release. They've kept like, value per token really high.
Yeah, I would agree. As we've been saying, that it's kind of breaking our tests. So, uh, obviously, super impressive performance. I think, as Dylan was alluding to, the place where I'm really the most impressed is its helpfulness, right?
Yeah.
Particularly on that business reasoning test, it
Yeah.
like understood the reader,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
The reader being a human
Yep.
in a way that models haven't in the past.
Yep.
And I am really excited to see how that new capability or understanding of humans will start to show up in other domains. We
Yep.
really saw it in business reasoning. I'm sure it'll show up elsewhere. So definitely let us know what you see in the comments. Even though I'm very impressed with the performance here, there's so much more to test with this model.
Yep.
I want to see how it performs as an actual agent
Yep.
in some sort of agentic environment.
Codex.
As the model itself was telling us, the tools and the system you implement around the model are sometimes just as important as the model.
Mhm.
So we'll definitely do a follow up with some agentic tests.
Yeah.
I think we'll also do some comparisons with the other models that have come out recently. There's a new Claude model. There are the open source models. GPT-5 is great. How much further ahead is it than things like Grok 4, Anthropic? Are we going to see responses from the other companies soon?
Mhm.
It's a very exciting time in AI, and I would expect that this week is not the end of the hot season here.
Mhm.
So definitely subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all of our videos. Like the video if you liked it. And drop a comment wishing Chris luck with his new child, please.
Exactly.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye bye.